Okay, welcome to this tutorial. We're going to be taking apart a key fob for Mercedes, newer style. This is for a Mercedes 2016, and you see it's a 4-button. It has a trunk, unlock, lock, and the panic, and using the IR window in front for when you stick it in. Yeah, so this is this particular key fob, and basically I needed to take mine apart because not this one but the other one got run over, so it got damaged. So the first thing you need to do obviously is you need to take out the key, which is going to use this little lever right here. You slide it over and your key comes right out actually, and you can see there's your actual key. Alright, so you can just put that to the side. So now we have just our standalone fob, and there's a small little window in here. That's where you insert a screwdriver or some other small device to pop off the back, so we can take off the back cover. And the tools that we'll be using today is just a regular pair of pliers, a pen screwdriver for getting in and prying on things, and a razor blade. And if you need, you can also have an additional, I use a pen light here to see some of the smaller parts, because sometimes you need to see inside. So, but if you have a very well lit area, it should be fine. Okay, so you take your pen screwdriver and just to get out the battery cover. There's lots of videos in there, but it's very, very simple. You just get inside and you pry open the latch, and the latch on the back, as you can see, it's just a regular catch latch, is what you're prying open right here. Yeah? You see it right there. Excellent. Okay, and then once you have that off, obviously you're going to take out your battery, and you're left with seeing the inner area. So that's the inner battery, and this is the cover you'll see, where you can see the model number, and you can't really see it on the video too much here, but this particular one is a DC12K and 315 megahertz, as it says on there. And so once the cover essentially is off, put it to the side. You can see this one pretty well got mangled. So it got driven over, and it wasn't working after being driven over, but this case was perfectly intact. So I was thinking that maybe it was something else going on inside, and it was. So we'll get into that. Okay, so the next thing you have to do, and now you got your battery cover off, we have these two side metal pieces here. Now, these serve dual purpose actually, but they just slide off. You just take your pliers and you slide them off. Okay, so you're just gonna grab it on the side, and you're gonna pull this way. Okay, so if we're doing it like this, you're gonna take your pliers and you're gonna hold the casing, and you're gonna slide. So you're gonna slide it that way. Okay, and by slide, it's because it's a catch. And if you look right here, you can see the grooves at the top, and you can see right here that it's just a notch and a slide. Yeah? So the notch and the slide, it comes over, and it comes right out. So you can see that the matchup is right in there. So and just like that. And it's just a slide notch. It just slides about 1/4 of an inch, maybe not even that much, and then it lifts right off. And it does that on both sides. Now you'll want to hold on to this because it's also your tool. When you slide it off, to get around the thing and easily, your screwdriver might be a little bit blunted at the tip, but this comes to a perfect flat edge, which makes a perfect pry tool, and it's what I used to get open all the way around the edges. Okay, so now when we have our side piece off, and we're left with one other chrome piece, and that's the topper here. Now we have to be careful with the topper, because when we pull off the topper, it's just held on with two small catches as well. It's on one piece and then the other. With this one, you can see the catch is right there next to my thumb, and it's holding it. And on the other half, the catch is on the other side, which is right there under my finger. So that one's actually really, really super small. That's all that's holding it on. And well, that's not true. Actually, there's one other piece that's holding it on, and that's the actual slide right here. So this slide is actually is in it. So when you pull it off, this thing's going to come flying off. So be very aware that it's going to come flying off, so you don't lose it. And be very gentle when you pry it off, because that little piece is a very delicate piece. You can see right here. It's a very delicate piece, and you don't want to lose that. But that's also holding, believe it or not, holding that onto the top. So you just get underneath it and pry it off just with the screwdriver. There's actually there's a hole on both sides that you can push in to get it off with your pen screwdriver. And then to get it started, and then you just get the screwdriver in underneath here, and then it just pops right off. It's really, really easy, but you do have to be gentle because of this part over here. Okay? All right, so now you have off all the chrome pieces. So the two side pieces off, and this top piece is off, and you're left with the casing. Now the casing, it was the part that was the most difficult to work with, because it's sealed, okay? No matter what you do, you are going to break the seal. You are going to break this open, but you do not have to permanently break it. The side pieces form a good enough hold on the sides that when you put it back together after you do this repair, it'll still function and be in one piece, but it's just not going to be as pretty on the front end. Okay, if you wish, you can get an epoxy and rebind it, and you can scrape off the epoxy that's inside using the razor. So the next part is you have to pry this apart, and to pry this apart, was not apparently 100% obvious, but if you look at it where your little slide latch is, just to the left, there is a little area where you can get in a screwdriver, and it's just above my thumb, right in there. You can get a screwdriver in there and pry it apart. And that's essentially what I did to get it started. Now, only to get it started, because the pry piece that is the side is too much, and that little pry area is just above the hole here where the key goes. So it's right there. So hard to see, and if you don't catch it right away, it's not 100% obvious. So I'm gonna try and make it the best I can to see, but it is just right in there. There you go. So you can see just underneath here, and you'll find there's that little flat area that's reflecting, where you can get a screwdriver in and you can start prying it apart to break the seal and get it started. Now once you get it started and you get that screwdriver in there, and you just get it in there and get it started. It doesn't fall open that easily, but you just get it in there, you get it started. There we go. All right, and you just, when you get it in there, and it's just going to be just enough to get it in there and get it going. And once you get the flathead in there, then you can grab your other piece and start guiding it around, all the way around, until you go to the complete other side, and you're going to break that seal all the way off. And that's all I did, because I got it in there, and then I just ran it around the entire edge, and it's a nice smooth pry tool. It's actually perfect, so I really think that they did it on purpose. And it just breaks the seal. Now, once you break the seal open, you're going to be presented with a couple of things. And one of my pieces fell out here, so I'm just going to get it back in, because I want you guys to essentially get the same fix that I did. There we go. So when you pop it open, you may be presented with a small issue keeping you from getting it out. Okay, so once it's pried apart and you lift it off and you're to this, it'll be like this and it'll be secured. Now some of the seal might be holding in the circuit board. Okay, so if that's the case and some of the seal is holding in the circuit board, you may have to take your razor and scrape off some of it around the edges to get it free, so there's enough gap to get it so that you can lift it out. And this one over here on my particular model was melted a little bit on top of the peg to keep the circuit board in, and then this one wasn't, it was normal. So you may or may not have that as well, but I don't know, because it might have just had something to do where it got run over. So, but it looked like my casing was fine, but it still wasn't making any communication with the car. Now, when it communicates with the vehicle, this is a light. It will blink when the light blinks reception for when you unlock it or lock it. This will correspondingly blink also, so you know that you're getting activity. But by itself, it doesn't have any lights. So I got it apart, got it out, and don't worry about this spring. This spring is the spring for the lever for the key lock. It doesn't come out, it just happily stays in there. So just be sure you don't knock it out and lose your spring and your block there. So we just put that to the side. You can see pretty well mangled, but the inside's very well protected. All right, so the next thing to do was to take out this piece, which looked completely fine, and I was very surprised that it still didn't work. And so I just pushed it a little bit from the bottom side and worked it out carefully, and I was, lo and behold, I see that it's just 2 contacts, 1 and 2, for a spring-loaded contact system for the battery. And this is what the cause to my problem was. When it had gotten driven over, these 2 springs, and you can see they're still too low, got smushed down, and they no longer made contact with the circuit board. So essentially, I wasn't getting any battery to the car. And so when I took it down to the car with just the circuit board and the battery contact, lo and behold, the car opened and the remote worked. So all I had to do was just take these guys right here and pry them back up, make them a little higher, and that was my fix. And so once they were higher up, I was good to go. I will do it a little bit more now. And you can now see that that one is above the level of the circuit board. Probably get a little bit more from the other one. So it's even. So it's just double contact. And you can see the other one is still sitting below, so it's not making good contact. Now that one you have to be a little bit more careful with, because there's not really much holding it in there. And so... Sorry guys, I don't have a GoPro. I'm doing this all holding my phone, but I just really wanted to share this information because nobody else has put it out there yet. So anyway, you just are going to need to pry that bad boy up, just like so, and maybe a little bit more. And you got, of course, it's very delicate metal, so you don't want to be overly strong with it. But now we should be able to look at it, and we have 2 contacts sitting a little bit higher. Sorry about the focus, folks, but it's there. And it looks like it could still go a little bit higher because you need it to hit the circuit board solid. So anyway, you adjust it as best as you can with what you prefer. There we go. That one's really good up there now. There we go. That one's really good up. And then we'll do the same thing for this one. probably easier just to take it out. But we're looking right at it. And we're just gonna pry it up just a little bit. There we go. And let's see here. Opa, there we go. Now we got a nice Z shape, and you can see it's really high up. And it shouldn't be a Z shape though. It should actually be something a little higher than a Z, because those top pieces are the contacts. There we go. All right, so my contacts are now bent back in a good position. And again, I apologize if this is not the best of recording conditions, but I'm not a professional YouTuber, but I just did really want to share this information with everybody just because it wasn't out there. So there we go. So we got it slid back in. It just has a little groove on the top and on the side, and this one stays in pretty good. It doesn't seem to go anywhere. It's pretty well locked in. That one right there. Okay, perfect. So now we have it in there, and we will now reassemble. And we just basically followed our own instruction of reverse. And now putting it in, I have tension, which I didn't have before, which tells me that the battery contacts are actually pushing on the circuit board now, which is what we want. And yeah, it's nice and resistant now. So now we're going to have to be careful when we reassemble, because we're going to have to make sure that it is in the right spot when we go back in, so that those contacts make good contact. And now we take this one, and like I said, this is a broken seal now. Now if you want to, you can scrape all of that off. That's epoxy, okay? And you can put a thin layer of epoxy back on if you want to get that same feel of look and seal, so that it has that nice clean look. Or if you're getting an aftermarket shell, you can just get the shell, and you'll be good to go. But you can see it's just epoxy. It comes off. It's not part of the plastic. So it's not going to be completely pretty when reassembled. If you're good enough just and happy enough just to have it working again, should this same issue happen to you and it gets driven over. But you gotta make sure everything is completely lined up, the peg holes and everything else, and then you line up the casing. And because you don't really have anything on the top here, there's really nothing very much that's keeping it in place, like any peg holes or anything. It really is just bonded with the epoxy, and not really much any grooving or guidance that is holding it in there. So once you get it lined up, you really do have to hold it in place, yeah, and then to make sure it works. Now, if you want to, once you have your contacts going, you can hold down on it, and you can make sure things work by taking it to your vehicle, and you can press the buttons. They will click. I don't know if you actually can hear that, but they are clicking. And if you are near the vehicle and the vehicle is responding, as I mentioned earlier, that's a red light, and it will respond with that. So okay, so back to it. So we're going to put this together just like so. And the only thing that's going to hold our entire assembly together, as I mentioned earlier, is our side guides. And our side guides are pretty much it. So the smooth end, the smooth side, goes away from the panic button, and the blunt end goes towards the panic button, so that you know which is which. And that's going to be the only thing that is holding the entire device together. All right, give me a second, and I'll just put this down. Alright, and you can see it's nicely into the groove on both sides. Okay. And that can hold it together. And you don't have to worry about your top piece because that can go in later. It's just a catch grasp. You really just want to get the entire assembly holding together. And it slides back together just nicely. And then we get the other one to also do the same thing. And then all good. All right, and I've slid them both on, so you can see it just slides like that, and then you slide it on like so. Yep, you can see there's a little gap left, and we can just tap it and push it, and it's now flush. And you can see we now have a reassembled casing, and now we only need to put back is the top, and make sure that it lines up. So you have your keyhole right there, and that's your little pry area that was covered up by the metal. And then we're just going to get it right in there. You can see, I mean, I'm doing almost all of this one-handed, so it really is a simple job if you just take your time. It clicks into place. There's 2 catch latches. Yep, nice and tight. And then we just have to put on our nice little friend here from the beginning. And we're going to just slide it right in there. As best as we can, one-handed. And then we're going to just drop it right in. Okay, that's it. There we go. Click, click. So you can now see that it's in there, and it now opens where the key is. And so we just need to now put in our now nicely snug. Now it's also possible that you're not making contact here as well because it got squashed down. So if you do raise it up, just be very, very careful that you don't scratch the board underneath, and that when you lift it, you just lift it very carefully with the screwdriver against this metal piece, but not against the circuit board itself. Yeah, so if you do end up wanting to lift that, just lift it very carefully and give yourself a little bit more contact with the battery surface. And then it just pops in just like that. And you have your case. And you have one repaired fob, and it's all together and reattached. The buttons are working. And your IR sensor, you don't want to scratch that. Yeah, that part you have to be very careful with because there's an IR behind there. And that's it. Oh, and of course, don't forget your key. Because as much as people call this a key, it's not. It's a fob. That's the key. Right there, an actual key. And some people say, well, you stick it in and you turn it. No, that's an IR. So even still, it's still electronic. So anyway, I hope that helps. And if you have the same problem, I hope it works for you because these things are really a pain financially to replace. and you can also just get a new case, and now you know how to get into the guts to it too, is to replace it without having to shell out a couple $100. Anyway, not that anything else I can tell you, but that was my experience, and I hope this helps some people out there. Have a great one.